Hi everyone, welcome. Thank you for joining us today for our Alta and Desmos webinar. I'm Leslie Bedingfield, our Associate Marketing Manager here at Knewton, and today we have a presentation from Eric Stano, our Senior Director of Content, along with Greg Hitt, our Manager of the Content team. They'll be telling you all about our new partnership with Desmos and show you what it looks like to run within Alta. If you have any questions that are coming up while we're going through this presentation, please feel free to just type them into the question box. We'll try to answer them as we go, and if we can't get to your questions, we'll follow up with you via email. And just a reminder, we are recording the webinar, so we'll be sure to send it to you after today's call. Thanks so much, and Eric, it's all yours.
Okay, well, thank you for joining everyone today. I know that you're all incredibly busy, so we'll try to make the most use of this half hour. And apologies that you have to receive a follow-up on this with my voice still on it. So I'll try and be as charming as possible. But again, thank you for joining. Today is about the symbiosis between Knewton, which is an ed tech startup that has just entered the higher education community directly within the last year or so, with Desmos, which is also an educational technology, mathematics-based startup. So we're going to talk about both what Knewton is and how our partnership with Desmos manifests. So I'll get right to it. So again, full disclosure, I was an editorial director at Pearson, so in the traditional higher ed community for the better part of 20 years. And what excites me so much about having made the change that I've made, which was made in May of this year, is to join a true technology company, which really unpacked what the most optimal student experience is going to be and what's going to give them the greatest, most effective path toward mastery. And that's what Knewton is really all about, is fueling students no matter where they sit on the spectrum of preparedness or skill level, is really giving them the most efficient journey towards mastery of the objectives that you legislate for them and that they aspire to as well. And again, we're going to talk today about the symbiosis between what we do in that mastery-based adaptive frame, as well as what Desmos contributes to that journey for students. As I've already invoked, Alta, which is our product, that's Knewton's platform, that's the product analogous to a Connect or a My Math Lab, etc. Alta is really the only fully integrated adaptive courseware experience that is out there. We scale across all of math from pre-algebra through the third semester of calculus. We also have a strong footprint in economics and statistics. And what Desmos is bringing to the table for us within our items, within that experience, is the ability to make math graphing exercises fully interactive, engaging, fun, a much more authentic, dynamic experience of mathematics. I've long since had a boss. I reported to him when I was at Pearson, report to him now. He has always said you cannot learn mathematics by answering multiple choice questions. Very true, and Desmos is enabling us to move past that conceit and give students an authentic experience of mathematics, an authentic and realistic experience. Let me start again with a little context. Again, this is a bit about Knewton, but it's also about Desmos. One of our primary drivers is something that you know all too well, is the diversity of students you have in your classroom. You have students who are very capable, very ready to move on. They've come in with a 4.0 from high school. You also have students who are perhaps more on the bubble, who have not climbed to college readiness. You also have students who are ESL. Again, it's just a large diversity of students. What Knewton is attempting to do, again, through our mastery-based adaptive platform, is to provide you with the capability to speak to all of those students and to help every one of those students, no matter where they fall on that spectrum, to help them achieve mastery of the objectives that each course is really designed around. Well, we also, and again, Knewton's Alta platform is rich. It's a fully learning platform. It's not simply a practice engine. We're trying to provide all of the learning experiences a student might need in their class, but it's also designed around the idea that it has a talented instructor, and whether that be an adjunct, a full-timer, what have you. We want to partner with faculty and not only give your students the opportunity to achieve the outcomes that you want them to achieve and master those outcomes, but we want you to be able to teach your own way with the confidence that your students are going to be carried along with you. Your students are going to be with you. A little bit about Knewton. As I said, we're a new entrant into directly presenting products to the higher ed marketplace. We're not that new, though, in many ways. We were launched in 2009. We were sort of the Intel inside a lot of platforms that you may be familiar with, where we tried to provide other traditional publishers with the adaptive capabilities that they had responsibly established were appropriate to help, again, a large diversity of students achieve the outcomes they wanted them to achieve. Long story short, over that time, we've spent a lot of money and encountered and engaged with a lot of students and have improved our platform and our capabilities in response to that. 15 million students, 28 billion recommendations in an adaptive frame have been made across a variety of countries, as you can see on the slide, continents, with the exception of Antarctica. And the reason we've actually diverged from being the quote-unquote Intel inside is just we're a technology company at heart. We were integrated within platforms and tech stacks that were on the older side, so they were not able to harness what we could provide, and then we thought we could do it better, so we did. So let me talk to you a little bit about Alta. Again, that's Knewton's fully integrated adaptive learning courseware. That is the context in which you would experience Desmos. Let me tell you a little bit about that. As I've said a couple of times now, we are an adaptive mastery-based platform. What we have imbued in that platform is high-quality instruction and assessment content that is largely pulled from open educational resource content providers. One of our primary partners in this is OpenStax, but we draw a lot of content and we fill a lot of gaps, because what my team does, I'm the senior director of content, what my team does when we enter a course area is suss out the learning objectives that the majority of the market is adhering to or is driving toward. OpenStax doesn't always provide the full comprehensive set of those objectives, and we want to appeal to the largest number of people. So we supplement those that are OER providers with contributions from universities, colleges, professors who are teaching there, as well as our own content team. I am blessed to have on my staff a series of people who are not only mathematicians and subject matter experts by training, but also educators. And one of the great things about Knewton, and one of the delights for me having transitioned from being part of a traditional publisher, is the fact that we are not only collect feedback on a daily basis, but we're also data-driven. We can look at the content, how it's performing, how students are experiencing it, and we're able to optimize that on a literally daily basis. There's no hyperbole baked into that. On a daily basis, we are optimizing that content to ensure the most effective mastery-based experience. And what that means for you, and hopefully this is good news, is that you don't have to deal with the notion of new editions ever. You don't have to say, okay, well, they're going to the 3rd edition now. Let me revise all of my notes. Let me recalibrate all of my syllabi, et cetera, et cetera. We're just constantly optimizing that so the platform and the content evolves towards the most efficient method of getting your students to mastery. As I've already invoked, this is a technology company, so and one of the greatest things that I heard when I joined Knewton was that simple is hard. Providing a simple instructor and student interface and engagement in the platform is not an easy thing to do. And again, coming from where I came from, I learned how hard that is to do, especially when you're bolting new features onto the platform as you go. Our engineers, our product people, our content people have thought carefully about what's going to be the simplest, most elegant, most engaging user experience. So that is the fulcrum on which everything is built. So you have a state-of-the-art user experience. And again, the just-in-time, the JIT instruction and remediation, that is also the secret sauce of what Knewton provides in giving a student an adaptive mastery-based experience. The very experience of that is just-in-time instruction. If a student begins to flag in their journey towards a particular learning objective, the content team, and fueled by the platform capabilities, are able to give students remediation, instruction, prerequisite content to help those students towards their most efficient achievement of mastery. And also, side note, just in terms of the expertly designed technology, seamless LMS integration. I am not the person who is most gifted at unpacking all of that, but I've seen my colleagues present our LMS integrations to a large number of instructors, and I've quite literally seen them swoon. So if LMS integration is something that you think about and you struggle with, or that's just a keen interest to you, I encourage you to follow up with us, maybe throw some questions in Slack, and we can certainly, outside of these 30 minutes, give you a very elegant tour of how we integrate with LMSs, because it's, from what I've seen in my 25 years in higher ed publishing, the best experience that's on the market today. The first slide that was flashed up, it was about achievement within reach of all students, and I've talked about the diversity of the students who are populating your class. That sense of achievement within reach for all students is very important and takes a few different angles for us. We want, and we're fully mobile, fully responsive in terms of the device that a student is engaging Alta within. So any equipment they have, we are capable of providing the experience they need within that. Also, not for nothing, we are affordable. So each of our courses are $44 for a student, and they have access for 2 years. So a precipitous drop in the cost of learning materials that your students are currently facing. And when we talk about all students, we literally mean all students. So students who might have visual impairments, hearing impairments, other challenges in learning. We are WCAG 2.0 ADA compliant. So that means alt tags for all images, both long and short, captions, descriptive transcripts, etc. And that's where Desmos also manifests as an incredible partner for us, because they, in fact, take it, even if it's even possible, even more seriously, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But both Desmos and Knewton, fully WCAG 2.0 ADA compliant. So I've sort of raced through all of these, but just to put a button on it, what you get when you adopt Alta is expertly designed technology. Again, it's imbued with high-quality OER that my team curates, edits, develops, so it provides the best, most effective adaptive experience, seamless LMS integration, fully accessible to all students, and affordable at a $44 price. So now let me talk about Desmos, the reason you're all joining the call today, because I think that's what everyone's interested in. What is Desmos? Desmos is a partner with us, a nascent partner that provides new item types, interactive exercises to help make mathematics by multiple choice, as I invoked earlier. You can't learn math by answering multiple choice questions. Helps make that an obsolete conceit within an online experience. They help make math crafting exercises fully interactive and engaging, and I'll show you a little bit of that in just a second. Virtually any math graph type is available, and that's something, as you're perhaps plowing some questions into the chat, we would welcome your responses to that. And the exercises show students what their answers mean, gives them the opportunity to improve their thinking and revise their work. So it's not a terminal experience where you answer a multiple choice question incorrectly and sorry, you're done with that. This gives them the opportunity to really develop some critical thinking. And that brings me to this slide. So they provide us with a more sweeping, inclusive set of key functions. Here's just a very modest set of examples. As I've said, exploratory, open-ended questions. It allows students a really authentic, immersive experience with math, which provides them and again catalyzes critical thinking. It moves us away, which is something we've always, in our short time in this market, we've always headed toward or always made as a goal for ourselves. We want to move away from the skill and drill orientation of certain platforms. We want to inspire critical thinking. And as I said, both Knewton and Desmos are WCAG 2.0 AA compliant. An interesting side note, Desmos has at the head of their ADA initiatives a blind engineer who actually very much takes it very seriously, providing an equivalent experience for all students, regardless of any impairments that they might have. So what I'm going to show here just briefly is a couple of GIFs that my team and Desmos has actually spun up just to give you kind of a flavor for what these item types look like. So again, you'll see that this is not answering multiple choice questions, etc. This is really immersing yourself into the graph, trying things out. And I actually have on the line, as Leslie said at the beginning, Greg Hitt, who is a manager, actually, in the person who spun up this particular example, a manager of the content team. Greg, do you want to add any color to how we might characterize Desmos?
So one of the stories I love to tell is I suggested Desmos as sort of the paradigm of EdTech in my interview 4.5 years ago at this company, because they not only have made, as Eric said, simplest is hard, but they've made an elegant, very simple graphing tool with also just a really wonderful sense of pedagogy in mind. And so they've gained a lot of respect in the education community because of that balance of very good UI along with a very strong pedagogical thought. So I'm extremely excited to work with them. They're a wonderful team and really thoughtful. And so I'm very excited.
Yeah, and again, as I said at the beginning of the call, Greg is both a mathematician by training as well as an educator. So I'm very happy to make him happy after 4.5 years. What I'm going to do now is jump into what Desmos looks like in the actual Alta platform. And full disclosure, while I've been in higher educational publishing for 25 years, I am not remotely a mathematician. So I am going to sort of Forrest Gump my way through some of these examples. But we have a couple of sets of examples. We have traditional and more open-ended questions. I'm going to ask Greg if he could to sort of characterize the difference between those two and talk through as I move my way through a terrible example of a terrible student. But Greg, do you want to characterize the difference between, or you want to at least characterize the more traditional examples that we have here? And I'll move my way through.
Sure. So there's going to be a series of questions here that are, again, more traditional in a sense, but we've looked at a few other possibilities for graphing within our product. And again, this is very simple and very intuitive for a student. So given this quadratic that Eric got not even close on, it provides a vertex and a point in which to the student already, rather than one of the pitfalls I've seen in some other graphing tools is there's a really high cognitive load in the number of elements that a student has to get right in order to get the question correct. And so we've stripped a lot of that away and really focused on, can the student actually graph this quadratic? So you can go on to the next example, Eric.
Oh, I'm going to interrupt you real fast. We got a question.
Okay.
It would be nice to know if there was a way for students to freehand draw graphs and then have the computer compare their plot with a computer-generated plot and grade it based on some sort of similarity. Is this something that Desmos can do, or do you know if they're planning to do something like that?
Again, we are just starting this partnership with them, and again, they are a wonderful company to work with. So that is not impossible. That is not a question type that we have at the moment, but we could definitely look into something like that. So this example that Eric's on right now, again, is a hyperbola, and again, we can provide the student with a basic structure, so in which they can manipulate within the graph. And then also, but we don't want to provide too much information in which way the hyperbola is rotated. And so if Eric takes too late. But toggling the green screen right there, or the green button right there, will also reorient our hyperbola. So again, we're not giving away too much information by providing that.
And just to jump on what Greg is saying, I think importantly, because it's part of Knewton's Alta product value proposition, as well as what we're able to do with Desmos, is we're able to provide fulsome answer explanations, as you're seeing in front of you, whether a student gets the answer correct or whether they get it incorrect. If they get it correct, it's reinforced. If they get it incorrect, they're given a worked out example problem, so we're able to move them closer to mastery. What I want to move to now, so those are sort of the more targeted traditional examples. Now I'm going to stumble my way through the more open-ended questions. Greg, would you care to characterize these as I embarrass myself?
Sure. Yeah. Again, there's one of the things I'm most excited about is sort of this more open-ended type of question. So this is a pretty simple one where I just draw a rectangle with an area of 12. But that means that a student has some freedom in that they could make a 6x2 rectangle, a 4x3 rectangle, a 12x1 rectangle. It doesn't matter where on the graph they do it. It's always going to evaluate that they made a rectangle with an area of 12. So again, we've stripped away a lot of those elements that sort of are cognitive load in terms of how to answer that. And again, Eric's example here with obtuse isosceles triangle, there are a number of possible correct answers there, and we will always evaluate if they actually do have an obtuse isosceles triangle, so the student is free to create whatever triangle they want. Now this is the one, Eric's really going to get stumped on this one. Making a perpendicular line. So again, there are a number of lines that are, oh, you got it right. Way to go, Eric. There are a number of lines that are perpendicular. So Eric got one of the possible correct answers. But again, it's all we're testing here is, do they understand what makes a line perpendicular to another line, and can they graph that? So there are a number of correct answers there that are accepted.
And just for full disclosure, while doing a similar presentation yesterday, I didn't read the question closely enough, so I mistook parallel for perpendicular, but they're both words. So that's why Greg is making a little fun of me right now. So that is primarily what we wanted to show you. Again, I flashed through a couple of examples of the objectives that we are speaking to. These are not comprehensive in any way, shape, or form. If you're interested, we can share with you the comprehensive list of objectives that we are thinking about covering in both math statistics, as well as economics. I'm not sure if there's any economics instructors on the line. You are welcome to make suggestions within the chat, and we will speak to that. You're hearing us at a time that is perfect to make your desires manifest, because we're currently in development stage. One of the breathtaking things about Knewton as well as Desmos is that we're able to iterate on things very, very quickly, develop things very, very quickly. In my old life, we would talk about innovations, and often it would be, well, we'll talk about that in 2021. Here, the answer is frequently, well, how's Tuesday for you? And so if there's any urgent questions or urgent needs, please feel free to put those in the chat. But I'll stop there and ask Leslie if there are any general questions over what we've covered thus far.
I think we're all good. We answered the questions that came in. I'm not seeing last call for questions. If you have any burning ones you want answered, as we're coming up to time, feel free to put them in the chat box. Otherwise, like I said, we can follow up with you via email. You can email us any questions you have at alta@knewton.com.
That's right.
Yeah, none coming in. Thank you so much for attending our webinar, and thanks to Greg and Eric for presenting. As I mentioned earlier, we'll be sending you all a recording. And again, if you want to learn more about Knewton, please feel free to visit knewtonalta.com, where you can request a personal demonstration or access to an account.
Yeah, and apologies that I apparently did not turn off my Slack notification, so you're seeing a colleague of mine eagerly trying to get in touch with me, so apologies if that's interrupting the presentation. But hopefully that didn't distract too much from the overall purpose of the presentation and the content of it. And again, as Leslie said, any information that you'd like, any follow-up that you'd want, we are happy to provide.
All right, thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.